Hi and welcome to another video. In this video I want to do a demo on how you can build a Docker image in a GitLab pipeline utilizing GitLab CI. I will show you how you can build a Docker image in a CI pipeline and push it to the GitLab container registry, and then I will also show you how you can use the CI pipeline to push it to Docker Hub. If you want to see how, stay tuned. Here I am in my GitLab instance. If you do not have a GitLab account, you can simply go to gitlab.com and register for free. The only thing that they will do is once you have registered and want to run CI/CD pipelines, they will ask you for your credit card information. They will not charge you, however, they will ask for it because there had been some abuse before in regards to running automated processes. So they just want to make sure you're a real person. So once you have an account and you've logged in, I have created here a demos group. And within this group, I will go ahead and will create a new project. So I will just click on new project. I will create a blank project and I will just call it Docker image build. You can call it whatever you'd like. I just call it Docker image build. It is by default a private project. I want to initialize it with a README and I will just click on create project. Now once our project has been created, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to clone it down. I use Visual Studio Code. You don't have to clone it down if you don't want to. You can also do everything here in the UI. I will, however, clone it down because it's a lot easier. So just click on clone. I have an SSH key set up already, and I will just take the SSH here, the SSH link or URL. I will take that to clone it. You can also clone with HTTPS. Okay, I will be right back once I cloned it down and I'm in my Visual Studio instance. Here I am now in Visual Studio Code, and what I will go ahead and do is I do have a terminal open. I have it set to git bash, and all I do here is just a git clone, and I will paste the SSH URL that we had, or that I had just copied. I will paste it in here and I will just push enter, and my project has been cloned down. As you can see, here's my README file. There's no other files in here just yet. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get our project set up. So what we want to do here is we want to build a Docker image. So first things first, we need to go ahead and create a Dockerfile. So I just create a new file. I will call it Dockerfile and we'll make it very simple. From Alpine latest, and we'll just create a Docker image, for example. So we'll just do a run apk update, and then after that we do an apk add Python 3. We keep it extremely simple. Obviously your Dockerfile can be as elaborate as you would like. In this instance here, we just run an update and we'll just install Python 3, and that should suffice. Now that we have our Dockerfile created, we can save this. And now what we need to create is we need to create our GitLab-ci YAML. The GitLab-ci YAML is living at the root of your project in GitLab, and that is the file that pretty much controls and steers your entire CI/CD process from where everything is starting. So in order to create it, we just add a new file here, and we need to prefix it with a dot, and then it is gitlab-ci.yml. And here's my GitLab-ci YAML, and now we can start populating that. Considering that you probably don't want to watch me type, I have typed everything out already and copy and pasted it over, but we'll go through it step by step. So the first line here, the image. The image just tells GitLab what image to use to run this particular set of script lines or script commands here. Then the variables, these are just variables that you can set that can be used then in your scripts or elsewhere in any of your CI/YAML file or in your YAML files. In this case here for our gitlab-ci.yml. Services is something in GitLab that allows you to, for a lack of better terms, run a secondary container in order to build or do certain things. So in this case, we need to have a Docker container in which we can build actually a Docker container, which is this DIND, which means Docker in Docker. So now we can use this image and this image here as a service, so that we can go ahead and we can actually build a Docker container in a Docker container. That's what this is, what a service is. There's other services. You can look it up on gitlab.com. There's a wider variety of different services what you can use. And then we come to our job that actually is running, which is building the image. And here we're executing scripts or script commands here. And the first one that we'll do is we run a Docker build. We tag our image with a GitLab predefined variable, which is called CI registry. This predefined variable is pretty much just referencing the registry for GitLab, which equates out to be registry.gitlab.com. And then here is our path to where we want to go ahead and actually write our image later. I will show you in a minute how you get to this. And then here's our image name using this variable up here. And I added also the version to it. Then we perform a Docker login. Again, we're using the predefined variables, CI registry, and then we use the CI registry user and CI registry password to authenticate when we're logging in. And then we just do a Docker push. Very straightforward, very simple. And now let's go ahead and take a closer look at these predefined variables and what they actually mean and what other variables there are. If you do a Google search for predefined variables GitLab, it will be one of the first results. It will lead you to this page here on GitLab Docs, and then you'll find the predefined variables or references. And you see here also it's for all tiers. That includes GitLab free, meaning if you have signed up for a GitLab account, you most likely will also have a free account. So what you can do here is now you can go through the variable list and you can see what kind of different variables by default will be available on your GitLab CI pipeline. So these are variables that you can reference either in your GitLab CI YAML or what I, for example, often do when I write Python code or Python scripts. You can read any of these variables also as OS environment variables. So these are available whenever a pipeline runs in GitLab. And we use the CI registry user. So if I scroll down here and then eventually I will find it, you see there's a whole lot of different variables here, but we use the CI registry, we use the CI registry user, and we use the registry user and the CI registry password. So you see here, these are predefined variables that are available to us. And you also will see over here the explanation what they mean. So the CI registry user, for example, the username to push containers to the particular project that you're currently working on, for example. But if you have an interest in learning more about GitLab predefined variables, I suggest visit this page, Google up GitLab predefined variables, and you can read through it. There's a lot of very useful information in here. Here I am back in Visual Studio Code, and now let's talk about how do we actually get the correct URL here where we need to go ahead and push our image to and how we need to tag our image correctly. One note on tagging the image: if you're pushing to a private registry, meaning not to Docker Hub, you would need to give it actually the full path in the name, so that it knows where it should go, and that it knows the repo it needs to push to. So you cannot just go ahead and call it image name like you would maybe do when you push something to Docker. So I cannot just call it Alpine Python and then version 1.1.0 and push it to Docker. In this case, we need to give it the full path. So let's see how we find out what that is. Back in GitLab, in my project, Docker image build, if I'm now going on the left-hand side into packages and registries, and then into container registry, you will see that there is no images currently because we created a brand new project. But if you scroll down a little bit, you see the CLI commands here. And you can see here too, there is, for example, an example for Docker push, and there's an example for Docker build. So this is actually your starting point where you start. Once you have images in here, and I will show you that later, you can still access the CLI commands. There will just be a blue button up here. But for right now, this is what we have. So we know that our Docker login should be fine. We have our user and our password here. But what we need is the correct URL to tag and to push our image. So what I'll do here is I just click on copy, and I will go back to my Visual Studio instance. Here I'm back in my Visual Studio instance. So what I'm doing, I will just comment this out and I will paste what we just copied over in here. And now you see how this command, this build command, for example, the first one that we have here, how this should be structured and what the correct path is. The path is here, registry.gitlab.com, which we have used our predefined variable. And now we need to go ahead and take this part of the URL and we need to paste it in here. If I can grab it right, doesn't want me to grab it, there you go. And I want to put it in here. And I got to do the same thing on my Docker push. I'm using the predefined variable here, and I'm just grabbing this up until to my image name, and I am going ahead and I am replacing that. Now I can get rid of my comment here. We don't need that anymore. We can scoot this whole thing up a little bit. There we go. So now it's all nice and clean and tight. That makes for a happy CI/CD pipeline, and we are good to go. So now I will save my change. And again, just to reiterate, you need to make sure that the path in your image that you're building, how you're tagging it, that has the full path for the private repository that you want to push to. And then in the end, when you push it, that you also have the full path here. And in the image name, we have the version. You can append a version if you wanted to, if you don't have it in the image name like I have here. But for demo purposes, this will suffice. So now we have made our changes. We can now run a git add a. We run a git commit message initial commit. And now we do a git push origin main. I'm pushing to the main branch directly. Not necessarily recommended when you're working in an enterprise, depending on what they allow you to do. But in my case, I'm okay with this. So I'll push it to my main branch, and I will switch over to GitLab, and we'll see what's happening there. Being back in GitLab, I'm on the left-hand side in my project, going to CI/CD pipelines, and now here I see that my pipeline is running. That's a good sign. I have not gotten any errors. That's very good. And I can click on running, and then you see my job, build image. It's running here. If you had multiple jobs defined, there would be multiple nodes here, bubbles here, that you can click on to go into the jobs. And in our case, there's only one job, so it's still preparing everything. getting the Docker image and container ready and to run our pipeline. So we'll just hang on for a little bit. Depends on how busy everything is. This may take a little bit. You need to consider using a free account. You're using shared runners, so there's other users using them too. Let's walk through the output real quick. So I'm not going all the way up. I don't think I need to. This is just some preparation it needs to do. We get in the repository, it's cloning it down. And then here's my Docker build. This is the first command that we put in, right? So here is the Docker build, and we can see it's running through my Dockerfile. It's running the APK update. It's running the install. Then it's running my Docker login, as we have provided it to the CI registry using the registry user and the registry password predefined variables. And the login succeeded here. And now as the next command, what we're running is our Docker push command, and we have updated everything here. Our push is running, was successful, and our job completed successfully. So what does that mean now? Now that our job ran successfully, let's go back here to our packages and registries, container registry, and we have successfully deployed an image to our GitLab registry. Container registry here in our project. Now from here you can make this available to other projects in your GitLab pipeline, and if they want to use this image, they can reference it, they can log in, or they can download it. If it's a private repository, they need to log in. If it is a public repository, anybody can use this image and then download it from here too. Now if you need to go ahead and push actually your image to, let's say, Docker Hub. I will show you how you can do that from a GitLab pipeline next. Here I have logged into Docker Hub, into my repository, into my account. I do have a repository here, call it demo repo, and that's all set up already. Now before we can actually push to a private repo. This is a private repo indicated here by the little lock. We need to create a token, and you create a token once you create a Docker Hub account, also free. You can create that, and then you can go in here. You go into onto your name up here, the drop down, and then you go into account settings. Before I click on that, I will stop the recording real quick, and I'll be right back because I know some sensitive information may be displayed, and I will show you how to proceed in a second. So once you clicked on that, and then you will be brought to the next page, and then you can click on security. It defaults to the general page, and my email is displayed, which I don't want to necessarily share at this point. However, then you click on security, and here you can create a access token. I cannot create another one. I also only have a free account. You can only create one access token. I called mine deploy me. When you click on here, it will just ask you what name do you want to give it, what permissions, and then it will give you the token. Make sure that when the token is displayed that you copy it right away, because it will only be displayed once. After that you will not be able to recover it. That means if you lose that token, you would need to delete this one. You can go on here, you can delete it, and then you would need to recreate a new token. But once you have done that, let's go back to gitlab.com, and now let's see what we need to do with this token. So what you need to do in gitlab.com is you need to create a gitlab-ci.yd variable or CI variable so that we can actually access this token in our CI pipeline. I have created this token under my demo group, and if I go into settings and then CI/CD and then into variables, so I went into the group demo. In my case the group is demo, and then I am going into settings, CI/CD, and then in variables, and then here I have created a token called Docker_Hub_token. You can name that token whatever you want, but you need to store it somewhere. So I store it in this group because I want other projects that I create under this group to have access to this token too. So in GitLab, how this works is if you create, for example, a token or a variable in a group, everything that's nested in this group, subgroups and projects under that group, will automatically have access to these variables as well. So once you have done that and have created this token, we can go back to Visual Studio Code, and I'll show you what we need to do in order to create the same image and actually push that to Docker Hub. Back in Visual Studio Code, I will actually not make any changes to this. You can create a separate project and do a project for a local registry or a GitLab registry push, and then for a Docker push. For the purposes of this demo, what I will go ahead and do is I will just comment these 3 lines out. And I've also prepared the commands that we will need in order to push Docker Hub, and I will walk you through it in just 1 second. Their commands are not that much different. The difference here only is for the Docker build. Obviously, the name of our image is different. So here I got to give it my account name or my username, which is just Toby, and then I give it the image name. And then I'm doing a login, and this is where we need to access the token that we have created before. You don't have to create it on a group. You can create this token or this variable on the project directly if you prefer, but it needs to be created somewhere so we can access it, because you do not want to have it in plain text anywhere in your code or in your scripts. So here I am passing it in. My login name is just Toby, and then here's my token. And then I'm doing a Docker push. And that's all there is to it. The only things different here is I cannot use my predefined variable. Well, I can use my predefined variables, but they would not be of any use here. But nonetheless, this is all I need to run to push to Docker Hub. So let's go ahead and save this. And we will go ahead and do the same thing. I'm doing a git add. My commit now, I will do push to Docker Hub, and then I'm doing a git push from my origin here, what I have currently, to main. Let's go ahead and do that, and let's switch back over to GitLab. Back in GitLab, let's go back to our project where I'm right now not. So I'll go into my Docker image build, CI/CD, pipelines, and it's running. So this worked fine too. There's no YAML errors or anything in it. And let's go ahead and take a look. And once everything is going through, we'll walk through it real quick. Oh, there we go. Done already. Perfect. Don't need to pause it. So let's go up a little bit. And the same things happen as in our other pipeline run. I do my Docker build. It does the Dockerfile. It does the APK update and runs my Python 3 install. I'm doing my login with my token. It succeeded. And then I'm pushing my image. So let's take a look at Docker Hub if my image really arrived here. I will go over here. And then I'll go into my profile. I'll go into here. And there's nothing there. And here is my tag. This is what I've just pushed. So now you may wonder why it did not end up in the demo repo. The reason is because we named the image Alpine Python and tagged it with 1.1.0. So this is our version tag. So what Docker Hub will do, it will automatically create a new repo so that when you tell somebody, for example, hey, I have created a new image, and you can go to just Toby Alpine Python and just pull tag 1.1.0 and there is my newest image, they can go ahead and do that. Now if you want to push it to a private repo, you can do that too, and I can show you real quick how to do that. So I will switch back to Visual Studio Code. So for it to actually push to the demo repo, I would need to change my image name here to demo repo, And that's all I need to do. And if I'm now doing my add, and here in my commit message, I will just change to demo repo, and I'm doing a push. I'll switch back to GitLab. Back in GitLab here, I'll go back to my pipelines. We'll watch our pipeline run. And once that's completed, we will check our repo in Docker Hub, and you will see that the image has then been pushed into my demo repo repository. Here we are back. Everything ran completely fine. Same result as before, with the exception that our Docker image name now is demo repo, and then the tag of 1.1.0. If I go over to Docker Hub and I'm going to my profile and I go into my repo, I go into the tags, and now here in demo repo in my private repository, I have pushed my image in here. So this is how to you can build Docker images using GitLab, and how you can push them to your private registry or your GitLab registry, container registry within GitLab, and how you can also push them to Docker Hub. I hope you found this helpful, and please feel free to leave comments or suggestions for other videos that you would like to see. And I do want to thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next video.